3 weeks before my cousin's wedding, I received a text that changed everything. Hey Camilla, I'm so sorry, but we had to make some tough cuts to the guest list. Hope you understand. What she didn't mention was that her real reason had nothing to do with budget cuts and everything to do with my dress size. But karma has a funny way of working, and sometimes the best revenge is living well at the exact same venue. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. My name is Camilla Smith, and until 3 months ago, I thought I knew exactly what family loyalty meant. My cousin Jessica Martinez and I grew up together in Phoenix, Arizona. Our mothers are sisters, and we spent every summer at our grandmother's house in Tucson, building blanket forts and planning our future weddings with stolen lipstick and bedsheet veils. Jessica was always the golden child, homecoming queen, valedictorian, the one who could do no wrong in our family's eyes. I was the artsy one, the one who preferred books to parties, who found my passion in graphic design rather than sorority life. Despite our differences, we stayed close through college. When she got engaged to David Thompson, a finance guy from Scottsdale, I was genuinely thrilled for her. The engagement party was at the Thompson family's country club, all white linens and string quartets. Jessica looked radiant in her champagne-colored dress, and I felt proud wearing the navy blue midi dress I'd splurged on from Nordstrom. The night went perfectly until I overheard David's mother, Patricia Thompson, talking to her sister by the bar. "Well, Jessica certainly has interesting family," Patricia said, her voice dripping with that particular brand of wealthy Arizona passive aggression. "I just hope she's mindful of the photos. You know how these things end up on social media forever." Her sister glanced in my direction. "Oh, you mean the cousin? I'm sure she'll find something flattering to wear." "That's not really the issue," Patricia continued, lowering her voice, but not quite enough. "It's more about the overall aesthetic. Jessica's vision is very specific. Elegant, refined, timeless. Every detail matters when you're spending this much money." I felt my cheeks burn, but I forced myself to walk away. This was Jessica's night, and I wasn't going to cause drama over some snobby future in-laws. Besides, Jessica would never let anyone dictate who could attend her wedding based on appearance. Or so I thought. 2 months into the wedding planning, Jessica and I met for lunch at our usual spot, a little cafe in Old Town Scottsdale where we'd been going since high school. She seemed distracted, picking at her salmon salad while scrolling through wedding inspiration on Pinterest. "The venue is incredible," she said, showing me photos of Sunset Ridge Estate, an exclusive vineyard in North Scottsdale. "It's where the governor's daughter got married last year. David's parents know the owners, so we got a huge discount." The photos were stunning. Rolling hills covered in grapevines, a Spanish-style villa with arched doorways and fountain courtyards, gardens that looked like something out of a fairy tale. The price tag, even with the discount, had to be astronomical. "It's beautiful, Jess. You're going to have the perfect day." "That's the thing," she said, finally looking up from her phone. "Everything has to be perfect. The photographer is flying in from Los Angeles, the florist did arrangements for a celebrity wedding in Napa, and the dress, God, Camilla, the dress cost more than my first car." I laughed. "Well, you only get married once, right?" Her smile faltered slightly. "Right, once. So every detail has to be exactly right." Something in her tone made me uneasy, but I brushed it off. Wedding planning was stressful for everyone. 3 weeks later, I was at Target picking out a wedding gift when my phone buzzed with Jessica's text. At first, I assumed it was a genuine budget issue. Weddings were expensive, and maybe the Thompson family's generosity had limits. But something nagged at me about the timing and the wording. I called my mom, Jessica's Aunt Maria, to see if she'd heard anything about guest list changes. "That's strange," Mom said. "Your Aunt Rosa mentioned that Jessica added 3 of David's fraternity brothers just last week. Why would she be cutting people if she's adding others?" The pieces started clicking into place. I thought about Patricia Thompson's comments at the engagement party, about Jessica's vision and the overall aesthetic. I thought about how Jessica had been weird at lunch, talking about everything being perfect. I decided to call Jessica directly. Hey, cuz, I got your text about the guest list, I said, keeping my tone light. I totally understand if you need to make cuts, but I wanted to check. Did something happen? We've been planning this together for months. There was a long pause. Camilla, you know I love you. This isn't personal. Then what is it? Another pause. Look, David's family they have certain expectations. The photographer costs a fortune, and every shot needs to be magazine-worthy. Patricia has been really specific about the visual cohesion of the wedding party and the family photos. My stomach dropped. Visual cohesion? I need everything to look perfect. You understand, right? It's not about you, it's about the photos and the overall look we're going for. I understood perfectly. I understood that my cousin, who I'd grown up with, who I'd supported through every breakup and celebration, had just told me I wasn't photogenic enough for her wedding. So this is about my weight? It is, Jessica. Just say it. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I'm sorry, Camilla. I really am. But David's family is paying for everything, and they have expectations. And you're okay with that? You're okay with excluding family because your future mother-in-law thinks I'll ruin the aesthetic? It's one day, one important day. Surely you can understand. I hung up. For the next hour, I sat in my apartment staring at the bridesmaid dress hanging in my closet. Jessica had asked me to be a bridesmaid 6 months ago, gushing about how she couldn't imagine her wedding without me. The dress was a beautiful dusty rose color that complemented my skin tone perfectly. I'd already booked the day off work, arranged for my boyfriend Marcus to be my +1, and even started planning Jessica's bachelorette party. Now, apparently, I was too visually disruptive for the Thompson family's perfect wedding photos. My phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Rosa. Jessica told me what happened. I'm so sorry, Mija. This isn't right. Then another from my mom. Your father and I are reconsidering our attendance. Family doesn't treat family this way. And finally, one from my younger brother Carlos. What kind of bridezilla bullshit is this? Want me to accidentally spill red wine on her dress? The support felt good, but it didn't take away the sting of betrayal. Jessica and I had been more than cousins. We'd been best friends. We'd talked about being each other's maids of honor someday, about how our kids would grow up together like we did. Now she'd thrown all of that away because her fiancé's mother thought I wasn't attractive enough to be in the family photos. That night, Marcus brought over Thai food and wine, ready to let me vent. He'd met Jessica several times and had always found her a bit self-absorbed, but even he was shocked by the situation. So what are you going to do? He asked as we sat on my couch with containers of pad thai between us. What can I do? She uninvited me. Case closed. You could crash the wedding, he said with a grin. Very mature. I'm serious. Show up looking absolutely stunning and make her regret the decision. I shook my head, but something about the idea appealed to me. Not crashing the wedding, that would be tacky and would hurt other family members who were still attending. But there was something to be said for living well as the best revenge. You know what? I said, an idea forming. I'm going to do something better than crashing her wedding. What? I pulled out my phone and started searching. I'm going to have my own celebration that same weekend, somewhere even better than Sunset Ridge Estate. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Are you getting married and not telling me? No, but I am going to throw myself the best damn party Phoenix has ever seen. A celebration of everything Jessica thinks isn't good enough for her perfect day. As I scrolled through venue options, one name caught my eye. Sunset Ridge Estate. According to their website, they had multiple event spaces and sometimes booked several parties on the same weekend. I clicked on their booking calendar and felt a slow smile spread across my face. Saturday, June 15th, Jessica's wedding day, had availability for their smaller reception hall, the Garden Pavilion. Marcus, I said slowly, how would you like to help me plan the most epic celebration of my life? What kind of celebration? A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. The kind that happens to be at the exact same venue as my dear cousin's wedding. The next morning, I woke up with a determination I hadn't felt in weeks. While Jessica was busy planning her perfect wedding, I was going to plan something even better, a celebration that would remind me exactly who I was and what I was worth. My first call was to Sunset Ridge Estate. The receptionist, a cheerful woman named Linda, answered on the second ring. I'm interested in booking your garden pavilion for June 15th, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Oh, wonderful. That's actually a very popular date this year. We do have the garden pavilion available, though our main villa is booked for a wedding. The pavilion is absolutely gorgeous. It overlooks the vineyard and has its own private entrance. What type of event are you planning? I paused. What was I planning exactly? It's a life celebration, a milestone party. How lovely! The garden pavilion accommodates up to 100 guests and includes access to the vineyard grounds for photos. Would you like to schedule a tour? An hour later, I was driving through the gates of Sunset Ridge Estate with Marcus beside me, both of us trying to process what I was actually doing. The venue was even more stunning in person, rolling hills dotted with grapevines, the main villa gleaming white against the Arizona sky, and gardens that looked like they belonged in a European fairy tale. Linda met us at the main entrance, a petite woman in her 50s with perfectly styled silver hair and the kind of warm energy that made you feel instantly welcome. The garden pavilion is actually my favorite space on the property, she said as she led us down a stone pathway lined with lavender. It has such an intimate, romantic feel, but it's also incredibly elegant. When we rounded the corner and saw the pavilion, I literally gasped. It was a glass-walled structure nestled among olive trees and rose gardens with a wraparound terrace that offered panoramic views of the vineyard. String lights were woven through the trees, and a fountain bubbled softly in the center of a small courtyard. It's perfect, I whispered. The best part, Linda continued, is that pavilion events have complete privacy from our other venues. Your guests would never even know there was another party happening on the property. Marcus caught my eye and grinned, unless they wanted to know. After Linda walked us through catering options, photography packages, and logistics, she handed me a contract. I have to ask, what's the milestone you're celebrating? I love hearing about what brings people joy. I looked out at the vineyard, thinking about Jessica's comments about visual cohesion and perfect photos. I'm celebrating authenticity, I said finally, being exactly who I am, unapologetically. Linda's face lit up. Now that's a party I'd want to attend. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, a bottle of wine, and a notebook, planning what was quickly becoming the most important event of my life. If Jessica wanted perfection, I'd give her competition she never saw coming. First, the guest list. I started with everyone Jessica had excluded from her wedding. Not just me, but several of our cousins who didn't make the Thompson family's cut, old friends from college who weren't important enough, and family members who Jessica deemed too casual for her elegant affair. My phone rang as I was adding names to my list. It was my Aunt Rosa. Mija, your mother told me about this party. Are you sure this is a good idea? Why wouldn't it be? It just seems provocative. Jessica is still your cousin. Jessica made her choice. I'm making mine. There was a long pause. What exactly are you planning? I told her about the venue, about the date, about my vision for a celebration that focused on genuine connection rather than superficial perfection. Dios mío, Camila, you booked the same venue? A different part of it, completely separate. But still what? I'm not crashing her wedding. I'm having my own party, on my own dime, at a venue that happens to also be hosting her event. There's nothing wrong with that. Another pause. Can I be honest with you? Always. Part of me thinks this is brilliant.
What Jessica did was cruel, and the Thompson family's attitude toward our family has been disgusting from day one. But part of me worries you're doing this for the wrong reasons. What do you mean? Are you throwing this party because you want to celebrate yourself, or because you want to show Jessica what she's missing? It was a fair question, and one I'd been avoiding asking myself. Maybe it's both. Maybe that's okay. As long as you remember that the best revenge is living authentically, not trying to prove something to people who don't deserve your energy. After we hung up, I sat with her words. Was I doing this to prove something to Jessica? Partly, yes. But I was also doing it because being uninvited from her wedding had reminded me of something important. I deserved to be celebrated, exactly as I was. The next few weeks flew by in a whirlwind of planning. I hired a photographer, not the fancy LA one Jessica was using, but Maria Gonzalez, a local artist whose work captured real emotion rather than staged perfection. I chose a caterer who specialized in authentic Mexican cuisine instead of the generic wedding fare most venues offered. For flowers, I went with a local florist who created wild, organic arrangements that looked like they'd grown naturally in the desert. Every choice I made was the opposite of Jessica's carefully curated aesthetic. Where she was going for timeless elegance, I was choosing vibrant authenticity. Where she wanted magazine-worthy photos, I wanted real moments captured honestly. My brother Carlos became my unofficial wedding planner, throwing himself into the project with the enthusiasm of someone who'd always thought Jessica was pretentious anyway. Okay, so for music, he said during one of our planning sessions, Jessica's doing a string quartet for the ceremony and a jazz trio for cocktails, right? What if we get a mariachi band? Carlos, this isn't about spite. It's not about spite, it's about being ourselves. When was the last time our family had a party without mariachi music? It's who we are.
He had a point. Jessica had always been embarrassed by what she saw as the ethnic aspects of our family. The loud conversations, the traditional music, the way our grandfather told stories that lasted an hour and somehow never had endings. She'd spent years trying to smooth down her rough edges to fit into David's world. But those rough edges were what made our family special. My dress shopping experience was completely different from what Jessica's had been. Instead of exclusive boutiques in Scottsdale, I went to a local designer who created custom pieces for real women with real bodies. Sofia Rivera had a small studio in downtown Phoenix, and when I explained what I was looking for, something that made me feel powerful and beautiful in my own skin, her eyes lit up. I have the perfect fabric, she said, pulling out a bolt of deep emerald silk that shimmered when it caught the light. And I have some ideas for a design that will make you feel like the goddess you are. 3 fittings later, I had a dress that was everything Jessica's wasn't. Where hers was traditional white lace with a cathedral train, mine was a form-fitting emerald green number with an open back and a flowing skirt that moved like water when I walked. It was bold, it was sensual, and it was unapologetically me. The final guest count came to 85 people. Everyone Jessica had deemed not worthy of her perfect day, plus my own friends who would never have made her list anyway. My coworkers from the design agency, my college roommates, Marcus's family, who had become like a second family to me, and all the cousins and relatives who'd been quietly hurt by Jessica's exclusions over the years. 2 weeks before the party, I received a call from Jessica's mother, my Aunt Carmen. "Camila, we need to talk." "About what, Tia?" "About this stunt you're pulling. Jessica is heartbroken that you're trying to upstage her wedding." "I'm not trying to upstage anything. I'm celebrating my life with people who actually want me there." "At the same venue, on the same day? Come on, mija, we both know what this is about." "Do we?" "Because I think this is about me finally realizing that I don't need Jessica's approval to know my own worth." "She made a mistake. Patricia Thompson has filled her head with nonsense about image and perfection, but she's still your cousin, and she loves you. If she loved me, she wouldn't have uninvited me for being too fat for her photos." The words hung in the air between us. She never said that. She didn't have to. We both know exactly what visual cohesion means. Carmen sighed deeply.
What if I could get her to reconsider? What if she invited you back to the wedding? Then I'd politely decline. I already have plans for that day. Camila. Tia, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but Jessica made her choice when she decided I wasn't good enough for her perfect day. Now I'm making mine. That night, as I looked over the final details for my celebration, I realized something important. This party had stopped being about Jessica weeks ago. It had become about surrounding myself with people who loved me unconditionally, celebrating the parts of myself I'd been taught to hide, and refusing to shrink myself to fit into anyone else's vision of perfection. Jessica could have her magazine-worthy wedding. I was going to have something better, a celebration of authenticity surrounded by people who thought I was perfect exactly as I was. The countdown to June 15th had begun. June 15th arrived with perfect Arizona weather. Clear blue skies, gentle breeze, and temperatures that would be ideal for outdoor celebrations. I woke up in my apartment at 7 a.m., surprisingly calm considering what lay ahead. Marcus was already in the kitchen making coffee, having stayed over to help with last-minute preparations. "How are you feeling?" he asked, handing me a mug. Honestly, excited. For the first time in months, I'm excited about something instead of angry. That's growth, babe. My phone had been buzzing all morning with texts from guests confirming their attendance, sending well wishes, and expressing excitement about the celebration. My cousin Roberto sent a photo of his mariachi outfit with the message, "Ready to party, prima." My college friend Ashley wrote, "Can't wait to see you shine today." But the text that made me smile the most was from Sofia Rivera. "That dress was made for today. You're going to be absolutely radiant." At noon, I arrived at Sunset Ridge Estate for the final setup. The property was bustling with activity. Jessica's wedding preparations were clearly in full swing at the main villa. Florists were arranging massive white and blush arrangements, a team was setting up elegant Chiavari chairs in the main garden, and I could see staff in formal black uniforms preparing the villa's grand ballroom. Meanwhile, at the garden pavilion, my celebration was taking shape with a completely different energy. Maria Gonzalez was already there capturing behind-the-scenes shots, and the mariachi band was doing sound checks, while the caterers set up stations featuring street tacos, fresh ceviche, and traditional Mexican desserts. Camila, Linda appeared with a clipboard and her usual warm smile. "Everything is coming together beautifully. Your florist just finished, and I have to say, these arrangements are absolutely stunning." She was right. Instead of Jessica's formal white roses, I had chosen wildflowers native to Arizona, desert marigolds, brittlebush, and palo verde blossoms arranged in rustic wooden boxes. They looked organic and joyful, like they belonged in this desert landscape. "There's just one small thing," Linda continued, lowering her voice. "The bride from the main villa asked if she could walk through the gardens for photos around 4 p.m. That's right when your guests will be arriving. I told her I'd check with you first." I felt my stomach flutter. She wants to come through here? Just for photos. The garden pathway connects to some beautiful spots for portraits, but if you'd prefer privacy, I can certainly redirect her. I thought for a moment. Running into Jessica wasn't part of my plan, but I wasn't going to change my celebration to avoid her either. The garden is big enough for both of us. If she wants to take photos here, that's fine. At 2 p.m., I went back to my apartment to get ready. Sophia had delivered my dress that morning, and seeing it hanging in my bedroom made everything feel real. This was actually happening. I took my time getting ready, a long shower, careful makeup that highlighted my features instead of hiding them, and hair styled in loose waves that looked effortless but elegant. When I finally put on the emerald green dress, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. Not because I looked different, but because I looked like myself. Confident, beautiful, and completely comfortable in my own skin. Marcus whistled when I emerged from the bedroom. Jessica is going to regret every decision she made.
"This isn't about Jessica anymore," I said, and realized I truly meant it. "This is about celebrating who I am with people who love me." We arrived at the garden pavilion at 3:30, just as the mariachi band was warming up. The sun was beginning its descent toward the horizon, casting everything in golden light. My guests started arriving shortly after, and the energy was immediately different from any wedding I'd ever attended. Instead of the subdued elegance of typical wedding receptions, my celebration buzzed with genuine joy. People hugged longer, laughed louder, and moved with the kind of relaxed happiness that comes from being completely yourself. My grandmother, Abuela Elena, arrived wearing her best dress and the pearl earrings she saved for special occasions. She took one look around the pavilion with its twinkling lights and desert flowers and nodded approvingly. Esto sí es una fiesta, she said. This is a real party. My coworkers from the design agency mingled with my college friends, while my extended family filled the space with the kind of animated conversations that had always made Jessica uncomfortable. Uncle Roberto's mariachi group started playing, and within minutes, people were dancing on the terrace overlooking the vineyard. Around 4:15, I noticed a commotion near the garden entrance. Through the trees, I could see a white dress moving along the pathway. Jessica, followed by her photographer and what looked like her bridal party. She was about 50 yards away, far enough that we couldn't see each other clearly, but close enough that the sound of our celebration was definitely carrying across the gardens. "Is that her?" Marcus asked, appearing beside me with 2 glasses of champagne. "That's her." "Wanna go say hello?" he said with a mischievous grin. "Absolutely not. We're staying right here, having our party, and minding our own business." But the universe, it seemed, had other plans. 20 minutes later, one of Jessica's bridesmaids, her college roommate, Sarah, who I'd met several times, appeared at the edge of our terrace. She looked flustered and slightly out of breath. "Camila, oh my God, it is you. I thought I heard your voice." The conversation around us quieted slightly as people noticed the bridesmaid in the powder blue dress standing at the edge of our party. "Hi, Sarah. Congratulations on the wedding." Wow, you're having a party here too?" "I'm celebrating life," I said simply. "How's the wedding going?" Sarah glanced back toward where Jessica's photo session was happening. "It's beautiful, really beautiful, but," she lowered her voice, "Jessica saw your setup when we were walking to the garden. She's pretty upset." "Upset about what? I'm not bothering anyone." "She thinks you did this to spite her. The same venue, the same day." I felt the familiar anger rising, but pushed it down. "Sarah, I'm celebrating my life with people who want me here. If Jessica has a problem with that, she can take it up with venue management." "She wants to talk to you." "I'm sure she does, but I'm busy with my guests." Sarah nodded, clearly uncomfortable with being caught between us. "Your party looks really fun," she said quietly. "The music is beautiful." After she laughed, my Aunt Rosa appeared beside me. "Mija, what was that about?" "Jessica knows I'm here. She's not happy about it." "And how do you feel about that?" I looked around at my celebration, at my grandmother dancing with my uncle, at Marcus deep in conversation with my college friends, at my coworkers laughing over plates of street tacos, at Maria capturing all of it with the kind of joy that only comes from genuine moments. "I feel like I made the right choice," I said. Around 5:30, as the sun was setting and our party was hitting its stride, Linda approached me with a concerned expression. "Camila, I hate to interrupt, but the bride from the main villa is asking to speak with you. She's quite insistent." I could see Jessica across the garden, still in her wedding dress, but without her photographer now. She was standing alone near the fountain, looking in my direction. "Tell her I'm busy," I said. "I did. She said she'll wait." Marcus overheard. "Want me to go talk to her?" "No, this is between Jessica and me." I looked around at my celebration one more time, at all these people who loved me exactly as I was, who were having genuine fun, instead of posing for perfect photos, who represented the authentic life I'd built for myself. Then I walked across the garden to face my cousin. Jessica looked stunning in her wedding dress, a classic A-line with intricate beading that probably cost more than my car. But there was something tight around her eyes, a stress that no amount of professional makeup could hide. "Really, Camila? Really?" "Congratulations on your wedding, Jessica. You look beautiful." Just don't. You know exactly what you're doing. I'm celebrating my life with people who actually want me there.
What are you doing? I'm trying to have my wedding day with my cousin staging some ridiculous protest party 50 yards away. Protest party? I laughed, genuinely surprised. Jessica, this has nothing to do with you. I booked this venue because I wanted to celebrate somewhere beautiful with people I love. The fact that you're here too is just coincidence. Bullshit. You did this to embarrass me. I looked at her, really looked at her. Under the perfect makeup and expensive dress, I saw someone who was scared, insecure, and desperately trying to control everything around her to feel worthy. The only person who should be embarrassed here is you, I said quietly. You uninvited family because your future mother-in-law thought I wasn't pretty enough for your photos. You chose other people's opinions over 20 years of family love. And now you're standing here in your wedding dress, angry at me for celebrating my life instead of hiding in shame. It wasn't about, it was exactly about that. And you know what? I'm glad you uninvited me, because this celebration with these people is 1,000 times better than whatever sanitized perfection you've got going on over there.
Jessica's face flushed. You've always been jealous of me. Jealous? I shook my head. Jessica, I feel sorry for you. You're so worried about looking perfect that you forgot how to be real. Look around. My guests are actually having fun. Are yours? She glanced back toward the main villa, where her reception was clearly more subdued, more controlled, more focused on appearance than enjoyment. Enjoy your perfect wedding, I said, turning to walk back to my celebration. I'm going to enjoy my perfect life. Walking back to my celebration after confronting Jessica felt like shedding the last weight I'd been carrying. My guests were in full party mode. The mariachi music had transitioned to a mix of Latin pop and classic rock, and people were dancing under the string lights as the Arizona sunset painted everything in shades of gold and pink. "How did it go?" Marcus asked, immediately appearing at my side with a fresh drink. "It went exactly how it needed to," I said, accepting the glass and taking a long sip. She's angry that I'm not hiding in shame somewhere, and I'm finally free of caring what she thinks. My brother Carlos bounded over, slightly sweaty from dancing with our cousins. Okay, I have to know, did you see the look on her face when she heard our music? Priceless. Carlos, be nice. It's her wedding day. Yeah, and it's your celebration day, which, by the way, is way more fun than whatever formal nonsense they've got going on over there. He wasn't wrong. Through the trees, I could see Jessica's reception in the main villa's ballroom, elegant, pristine, and notably quiet compared to our joyful chaos. Her guests sat at perfectly appointed tables, making polite conversation while a jazz trio played softly in the background. It looked like a beautiful magazine spread, but it didn't look like a party. Around 7 p.m., just as our celebration was reaching its peak, Linda approached me again, this time with a curious expression. "I don't want to alarm you, but we've had several guests from the main villa ask about your party. Apparently, word has spread about the fun celebration happening in the garden pavilion." "What kind of questions?" "Whether it's a public event, mostly. A few even asked if they could stop by after the main reception ends." I laughed. "What did you tell them?" "That it's a private celebration, but I'd pass along their interest to the host." She paused. "Between you and me, in 15 years of working weddings, I've never seen guests at one event so curious about another party happening simultaneously." 20 minutes later, the curiosity became more obvious. David's younger brother, Tyler, appeared at the edge of our terrace. He was about my age, and I'd met him briefly at the engagement party where he'd seemed like the only Thompson family member with a sense of humor. "Camila, right? We met at Jessica and David's engagement party." "Tyler, hi. Shouldn't you be at your brother's wedding reception?" He grinned sheepishly. "I stepped outside for some air and heard the music. This looks like an amazing party." "It is. We're having a great time. Mind if I ask what you're celebrating? I mean, I know it's not a wedding, but this setup is incredible." I considered how to answer. "I'm celebrating authenticity, being surrounded by people who love me exactly as I am." He nodded slowly. "That's actually really cool. Very different from what we've got going on in there." "Different how?"
Well, for starters, people are actually dancing here. Our DJ is playing the most boring playlist known to mankind because my mother insisted on appropriate music. And the food? He shook his head. Let's just say those tacos I smell over there look a lot more appealing than our 7-course plated dinner. Before I could respond, we were interrupted by another Thompson family member, David's sister Amanda, who looked slightly frazzled. Tyler, there you are. Mom's looking for you. She wants family photos before. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw our party set up. Oh, wow, this is gorgeous. Amanda, this is Camila, Jessica's cousin. Recognition flickered across her face. Oh, you're the one who Jessica uninvited for not fitting her aesthetic vision, I finished. Yes, that's me. Amanda's cheeks flushed. I'm so sorry. I heard about that. And Mom can be challenging about appearances. Your mother made her opinions very clear at the engagement party. She did? Tyler looked confused. What did she say? Amanda shot him a warning look, but I was past caring about Patricia Thompson's reputation. She was concerned about the overall aesthetic of the wedding photos and whether Jessica's family would fit the elegant, refined vision she had in mind. Tyler's expression darkened. She said that about you? Not directly to me, but loud enough for me to hear. Jesus, I'm really sorry, Camila. That's not okay. It's fine. Actually, it's better than fine. Getting uninvited was the best thing that could have happened to me. How so? I gestured around the pavilion, where my guests were laughing, dancing, and genuinely celebrating life. Because this is real. This is joy. This is what celebration looks like when you're not worried about appearances. Amanda glanced back toward the main villa, where we could see Patricia Thompson through the ballroom windows, directing staff and looking generally displeased about something. You're not wrong, she said quietly. I love David, and I want him to be happy, but this whole wedding has been more about impressing people than celebrating love. Amanda, Patricia's voice carried across the garden. Where did you go? We need you for the cake cutting. I should go, Amanda said reluctantly, but honestly, this looks like the party I'd rather be at. After they left, Maria Gonzalez appeared beside me with her camera. I've been documenting everything, and I have to tell you, I've shot dozens of weddings and events, but I've never captured this much genuine happiness in one evening. Your guests aren't performing for the camera. They're just living. That was the goal.
Well, you succeeded. Also, I have to ask, is it true that there are wedding guests asking about crashing your party? Apparently, word has gotten around. That's incredible. I mean, I can see why. Look at this. She showed me the back of her camera, scrolling through photos she'd taken throughout the evening. Every image was filled with authentic emotion. My grandmother laughing with my uncle Roberto, Marcus deep in animated conversation with my college friends, my coworkers attempting to learn salsa steps from my cousins, me in my emerald dress looking genuinely radiant and confident. These are the kind of photos people treasure forever, Maria said, not because they're perfect, but because they're real. Around 8:30, as our party continued to build energy while Jessica's reception seemed to be winding down, I received an unexpected text from Sarah, the bridesmaid I'd spoken to earlier. I know this is weird, but several of us are wondering if your party is still going. The main reception is ending soon, and your celebration looks amazing from here. Would it be okay if a few of us stop by? I showed the text to Marcus. Jessica's own wedding guests want to come to our party? What are you going to say? I thought about it for a moment. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about celebration, inclusivity, and authenticity, the things Jessica's wedding had rejected. I texted back. Everyone is welcome who comes with good intentions and respect for what we're celebrating here. Within 20 minutes, we had an influx of new guests, several of Jessica's bridesmaids, some of David's college friends, Tyler and Amanda Thompson, and even a few older relatives who had apparently been bored by the formal reception. The energy shifted as our two celebrations essentially merged into one. The people who came over from Jessica's wedding were immediately struck by the difference in atmosphere. Within minutes, Patricia Thompson's carefully curated guests were dancing to mariachi music, eating street tacos with their hands, and laughing louder than they probably had all evening. This is incredible, one of Jessica's college friends told me. Don't get me wrong, the main reception was beautiful, but this feels like a real celebration. Tyler Thompson, now pleasantly buzzed and sporting a mariachi hat that Uncle Roberto had placed on his head, approached me around 9 p.m. "I owe you an apology," he said, "not just for my mother's behavior, but for all of us. We should have said something when Jessica uninvited you. That was wrong." "It's not your fault." Maybe not directly, but we enabled it by staying silent. Family should stand up for family, and we let Jessica exclude you to keep peace with my mother. And now? He gestured around the pavilion, where Thompson family members were mingling seamlessly with my relatives, all boundaries dissolved in the universal language of good music, good food, and genuine celebration. Now I'm realizing what we missed out on. This is what a wedding celebration should feel like. At 9:30, Linda found me again, this time with a slightly panicked expression. "Camila, I need to give you a heads up. The bride from the main villa is asking to speak with venue management about the situation." "What situation?" "Apparently, she's upset that her wedding guests are leaving her reception to attend your party. She's claiming it's disruptive to her event." I looked around at the mixed crowd of guests, all clearly having the time of their lives. Jessica's own wedding party was on our dance floor. Her college friends were bonding with my cousins over shared stories, and even some of the older Thompson relatives were chatting animatedly with my grandmother in a mixture of English and Spanish. "Linda, are we violating any rules or policies?" "Not at all. Your guests are staying within your designated area, you followed all noise ordinances, and anyone who joined your celebration did so voluntarily. Then there's no situation. People are free to celebrate wherever they choose." But even as I said it, I could see Jessica across the garden, still in her wedding dress, watching her carefully planned reception dissolve as her guests migrated to our celebration of authenticity. For the first time all evening, I felt a pang of something that wasn't quite guilt, but wasn't satisfaction either. This hadn't been my intention, but I couldn't deny there was a certain poetic justice in watching Jessica's perfect wedding lose its audience to the celebration of everything she'd rejected. The night was far from over, and I had a feeling the real drama was just beginning. By 10 p.m., the transformation was complete. What had started as two separate celebrations had organically become one massive party centered around the garden pavilion. Jessica's carefully orchestrated wedding reception had effectively emptied into my celebration of authenticity, creating the kind of joyful chaos that happens when people choose fun over formality. David Thompson appeared at the edge of our terrace, still in his wedding tuxedo, but looking considerably more relaxed than he had earlier. He stood there for a moment, taking in the scene. His college fraternity brothers learning cumbia steps from my cousin Rosa, his grandmother deep in conversation with my abuela Elena despite the language barrier, his sister Amanda wearing a mariachi hat while attempting to salsa dance with Uncle Roberto. "This is not what I expected when I woke up this morning," he said, approaching me with a bemused smile. "Good unexpected or bad unexpected?" "Honestly, good. Really good." He looked back toward the main villa, where I could see Jessica through the ballroom windows, apparently having an animated conversation with her mother and Patricia Thompson. "I think this might be the first time I've seen my family actually enjoy themselves at a formal event." "Your brother seems to be having fun," I said, nodding toward Tyler, who was now attempting to play maracas with the mariachi band. "Tyler's been complaining about stuffy family events his whole life. This is his dream come true." David paused. "Listen, I owe you an apology. What Jessica did, uninviting you, that wasn't okay. I should have said something." "Why didn't you?" He was quiet for a moment. "Because I was a coward. My mother had very specific ideas about this wedding. Jessica was stressed about pleasing her, and I took the easy route by staying out of it. But watching this tonight, seeing how happy everyone is," he shook his head, "I realized we created exactly the kind of stuffy, exclusive event I never wanted." It's your wedding day, David. You should have had what you wanted. Should have, yeah. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about what Jessica and I wanted and started being about what everyone else expected. He gestured around the pavilion. This feels like what we should have done. Before I could respond, we were interrupted by Linda, who approached with her walkie-talkie in hand and concern written across her face. Camila, I need to speak with you privately. We stepped aside and Linda lowered her voice. The bride from the main villa has contacted our management company. She's demanding that we shut down your event for, and I quote, deliberately sabotaging her wedding by creating a competing celebration designed to steal her guests. That's ridiculous. I booked the space legitimately, and I haven't forced anyone to come to my party. I know that, and management knows that, but she's threatening to leave negative reviews, contact the Better Business Bureau, and potentially pursue legal action for breach of contract or something. She claims we should have warned her that there would be another celebration the same day. I felt a familiar surge of anger, but it was tempered by something else: pity. Jessica was so desperate to control her perfect day that she was willing to make threats and demands rather than accept that people were choosing authenticity over performance. What does management want to do? Nothing. You've done nothing wrong. You're following all our policies, and frankly, Linda glanced around at the joyful celebration surrounding us. Half our staff has commented that this is the most fun they've seen guests have at an event all year. But I wanted to give you a heads up that she might escalate this. As if summoned by our conversation, Jessica herself appeared at the garden entrance. She was still in her wedding dress, but her perfect updo was slightly disheveled, and there was a tightness around her eyes that suggested she'd been crying. Behind her, I could see Patricia Thompson hovering near the main villa, clearly agitated. "I need to talk to you," Jessica called out, her voice carrying across our celebration. The music didn't stop, but conversations quieted as people noticed the bride in white standing at the edge of our party. Several of her own wedding guests, now thoroughly integrated into our celebration, looked uncomfortable at her appearance. I walked over to meet her, with Marcus and David both flanking me protectively. "Jessica, what can I do for you?" "You can end this. This performance. This whole thing is designed to humiliate me on my wedding day." "Jessica, look around. Did these people look like they're here to humiliate you? They're here because they're having fun, something that was apparently missing from your reception." "That's not—" She stopped, seeming to realize that half the people at my party were her own wedding guests. "This is my wedding day. These are my guests. These are people celebrating life and love and authenticity. If they happen to be your wedding guests who chose to come over here, that says something about what they were missing at your reception. That's not—" She stopped, seeming to realize that half the people at my party were her own wedding guests. "This is my wedding day. These are my guests. These are people celebrating life and love and authenticity. If they happen to be your wedding guests who chose to come over here, that says something about what they were missing at your reception." Tyler appeared beside us, still wearing the mariachi hat and looking slightly guilty. "Jess, this isn't Camila's fault. We came over here because we wanted to. You came over here because she deliberately planned this to upstage my wedding." "I planned this to celebrate my life with people who love me," I said firmly. "The fact that it ended up being more appealing than your reception is not my responsibility." Jessica's composure finally cracked. "You've ruined everything. This was supposed to be perfect, the most important day of my life, and you've turned it into some kind of joke." "The only person who ruined anything is you, Jessica. You chose appearances over family. You chose other people's opinions over love. You created a wedding that was so focused on looking perfect that you forgot to make it joyful." "That's not—" "It is exactly that." David stepped forward, putting a gentle hand on Jessica's arm.
Babe, look around. Really look. When was the last time you saw my grandmother laugh like she is right now? When have you ever seen Tyler voluntarily participate in family event activities? When have our families ever mixed this naturally? Jessica looked around the pavilion, taking in the scene. Thompson relatives dancing with Smith Martinez family members, her own bridesmaids teaching my cousins TikTok dances, elderly relatives from both families sharing stories despite language barriers, David's college friends deep in conversation with my coworkers about everything from sports to philosophy. "This isn't what I planned," she whispered. "No," I said gently. "This is what happens when you stop trying to control everything and just let people be themselves." Sarah, her maid of honor, approached hesitantly. "Jess, maybe we could just join the party? Everyone's having such a good time." "Join the party?" Jessica's voice rose. "This is my wedding day. I'm not joining someone else's party." "But it doesn't have to be someone else's party," Amanda Thompson said, appearing beside us. "It could just be everyone's party, one big celebration." Patricia Thompson's voice cut across the garden from the main villa entrance. "Jessica, what are you doing? We need to cut the cake and do the bouquet toss. Your photographer is waiting." Jessica looked between her mother-in-law's demands and the joyful celebration surrounding her. For a moment, I saw something flicker across her face, a longing for the authentic joy that had been missing from her carefully orchestrated event. But then her expression hardened. "No, this is not how my wedding day ends, with my guests abandoning my reception for my cousin's spite party." "It's not a spite party, Jessica. It never was." "Then what is it?" I looked around at the celebration, at the mixing of cultures and families, at the genuine laughter and connection, at the way people had shed their formal pretenses to just enjoy each other's company. It's everything your wedding could have been if you hadn't been so afraid of yourself. The words hung in the air between us. Jessica stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked back toward the main villa, her wedding dress trailing behind her on the stone pathway. David lingered for a moment. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "about all of this." "Don't apologize for choosing what makes you happy," I told him. "Just remember this feeling the next time someone tries to convince you that appearance is more important than authenticity." He nodded and followed his new wife back to their formal reception, though I noticed several of their guests stayed at our celebration. As the evening continued, our party evolved into something beautiful and unexpected. The mariachi band played requests in multiple languages, people shared food and stories across cultural lines, and the dance floor became a space where different generations and backgrounds moved together in joyful harmony. Around midnight, as the celebration finally began to wind down, Linda found me again. "I wanted to let you know, management reviewed the situation and Jessica's complaints. They're not taking any action because you did nothing wrong. But more importantly," she smiled, "they want to feature your celebration style in their event planning marketing. Apparently, they've never seen such genuine happiness at a venue event." Later, as Marcus and I helped with the cleanup, my abuela Elena approached me. She'd removed her good shoes and was carrying them in her hand, her face glowing with the satisfaction that comes from a truly good party.
"Mija," she said, taking my hands in hers, "tonight you showed everyone the difference between a performance and a celebration, between trying to be perfect and being perfectly yourself. Do you think I did the right thing, abuela? You did the authentic thing, and that's always right." As we packed up the last of the decorations and said goodbye to our guests, I reflected on how the evening had unfolded. I'd started planning this celebration as a response to being rejected, but it had become something entirely different, an affirmation of values, a celebration of authenticity, and a reminder that the best parties happen when people feel free to be themselves. Jessica had her perfect wedding photos, her expensive dress, and her elegant reception, but I had something better, A night filled with genuine joy, real connections, and the knowledge that I was loved exactly as I was. 3 months later, I received a wedding invitation in the mail. Tyler Thompson was getting married, and the note attached said, "Planning a celebration, not a performance. Mariachi band already booked. Hope you can make it. Tyler and Emma." Sometimes the best revenge really is living authentically, and sometimes the most unexpected outcomes come from staying true to who you are, even when others try to convince you that you're not enough. The Garden Pavilion at Sunset Ridge Estate had hosted two very different celebrations that night, but only one of them was remembered as the party where everyone felt free to be themselves. The weeks following my celebration at Sunset Ridge Estate brought unexpected consequences that I never could have anticipated. What I thought would be the end of the story with Jessica turned out to be just the beginning of a much larger narrative about family, authenticity, and the ripple effects of standing up for yourself. The Monday after the celebration, I woke up to find my phone buzzing with notifications. Maria Gonzalez had posted some of the photos from my party on her photography Instagram, and they were gaining traction fast. Comments poured in from strangers asking about the amazing authentic celebration and wanting to know how to book similar events. "Girl, you need to see this," Marcus said, showing me his phone over coffee. "You're going viral." He wasn't exaggerating. A video that Tyler Thompson had posted on his TikTok, showing the mariachi band, the cultural mixing, and the pure joy of the celebration, had been viewed over 200,000 times overnight. The comments were overwhelmingly positive. "This is what a real celebration looks like. Why can't all weddings be this fun? The authentic vibes are everything. Family drama that ended in the most beautiful way." But the attention also brought some unwelcome scrutiny. By Tuesday, I'd received a call from Jessica's mother, my Aunt Carmen, who was not pleased with the social media coverage. "Camila, this has gone too far. Jessica is devastated. Her wedding photos are being overshadowed by posts about your party." "Tia, I didn't post anything. Other people shared their experiences because they had a good time." "But you planned this whole thing to embarrass her." "I planned it to celebrate my life. If Jessica feels embarrassed, that's because she knows she made the wrong choice." "She's family, Camila. Family forgives." "Family also doesn't uninvite each other for not being photogenic enough." The conversation ended tensely, and I found myself questioning whether I'd handled everything correctly. But that doubt was short-lived. Wednesday brought a call from Linda at Sunset Ridge Estate. "Camila, I hope you don't mind me reaching out, but we've had an unusual number of inquiries about your celebration style. Clients are specifically asking for authentic, joyful events like the one that Smith woman threw." "Seriously?" "Dead serious. 3 couples have booked events specifically requesting the opposite of a traditional formal wedding. They want mariachi band, family-style dining, and mixed cultural celebrations. One bride even said she wanted whatever made everyone so happy in those photos." "That's incredible." "There's more. Our management team wants to offer you a consulting position. We'd love to have you help plan events that prioritize authentic joy over formal perfection." I sat in my office at the design agency, staring out the window and trying to process this unexpected turn. My celebration of self-worth was accidentally becoming a business opportunity. That evening, I received an even more surprising call from David Thompson. "Camila, I hope it's okay that I'm calling. I got your number from Tyler." "Of course. How are you and Jessica doing?" There was a long pause. "That's actually why I'm calling. We've been having some difficult conversations since the wedding, about priorities, about family, about what we want our marriage to look like. I'm sorry to hear you're struggling." "Don't be sorry. These are conversations we should have had months ago. Seeing how happy everyone was at your celebration and then watching Jessica's reaction to it, it opened my eyes to some things I'd been ignoring." He went on to explain that Jessica had been furious about the social media attention my party was getting, especially when several wedding blogs picked up the story as an example of authentic celebration done right.
But more importantly, David had started questioning the values that had driven their entire wedding planning process. I realized I'd married someone who cared more about appearing perfect than being happy, and I realized I'd become someone who enabled that instead of standing up for what I actually believed in. What are you going to do? We're in couples counseling. Jessica thinks the problem is that people don't understand her vision. I think the problem is that her vision excluded love, authenticity, and joy in favor of appearances. 2 weeks later, I got another unexpected call, this one from Tyler Thompson. Tyler, I need your help. Emma and I are planning our wedding, and after seeing your celebration, we know exactly what we want, but we have no idea how to create it. What do you mean? We want something real, something joyful, something that brings families together instead of creating divisions. But neither of us knows how to plan an event that prioritizes authenticity over appearances. Tyler, you don't need my help for that. You need to make choices based on what makes you happy, not what looks good on Instagram. But that's exactly what I mean. We need someone who understands that philosophy to help us execute it. This conversation led to my first official event planning consultation. Tyler and Emma wanted a wedding that mixed their different cultural backgrounds. He was Irish American from Scottsdale, she was Korean American from Los Angeles, in a way that honored both families while creating space for genuine celebration.
Working with them was completely different from watching Jessica plan her wedding. Instead of obsessing over color palettes and photographer angles, we focused on creating moments that would bring their families together. We planned food stations featuring both Korean barbecue and Irish comfort food, hired a DJ who could seamlessly blend K-pop with Celtic music, and designed activities that would help guests from different backgrounds connect. Their wedding, held at a more casual venue in Tempe, was everything Jessica's hadn't been. Grandparents taught each other traditional dances, kids ran around freely between cultural demonstrations, and the photo gallery captured real moments of joy rather than staged perfection. But the most meaningful validation came from an unexpected source, my cousin Roberto's daughter, Isabella, who was planning her quinceañera. "Tia Camila," she said during a family dinner 6 weeks after my celebration, "I want my party to be like yours was, not fake fancy, but real happiness." "What do you mean, mija?" "I went to my friend Sophia's quinceañera last month, and it was so boring. Everyone sat at tables and ate fancy food and took pictures, but nobody really had fun. I want mine to feel like your party, where people actually celebrate." This led to my third event planning project, Isabella's quinceañera, which became a beautiful fusion of traditional elements with authentic family joy. Instead of a formal waltz, Isabella chose to dance reggaeton with her grandfather. Instead of an expensive catered dinner, we organized a family cook-off where different relatives prepared their signature dishes. Instead of posed family portraits, we hired a photographer who specialized in capturing candid moments. The party was a massive success, and more importantly, it started changing how our extended family thought about celebrations. Instead of trying to impress others, we began focusing on creating joy for ourselves. Meanwhile, Jessica and I remained in a strange state of family détente. We weren't actively fighting, but we weren't talking either. I heard through family gossip that she was struggling with the aftermath of her wedding, not because anything had gone wrong, but because looking back at her photos and videos, she could see the difference between her guests' polite smiles and the genuine laughter visible in the background whenever the camera caught sounds from my celebration. The turning point came 3 months later, at our grandmother's 80th birthday party. The family had decided to throw Abuela Elena a surprise celebration, and the planning committee naturally included both Jessica and me. Our first planning meeting was awkward. Jessica arrived at our Aunt Rosa's house looking perfectly put together but tense. I came straight from work, still in my design agency attire, carrying a notebook full of ideas for making Abuela's party special. "So," Aunt Rosa said, looking between us, "let's talk about what Abuela would actually want for her birthday." Jessica immediately pulled out her phone. "I've been researching elegant 80th birthday party themes. Classic garden party, vintage tea party, sophisticated family gathering. Or," I interrupted gently, "we could ask her what she wants." "Ask her? It's supposed to be a surprise." "We can ask about her preferences without ruining the surprise.
Like, what kind of music makes her happiest? What foods remind her of the best times in her life? Who are the people she most wants to celebrate with? The conversation that followed was revealing. As we talked about Abuela's actual preferences, mariachi music that reminded her of her youth in Mexico, homemade tamales and mole that took days to prepare properly, dancing that lasted until her feet hurt, stories shared in both Spanish and English, Jessica began to realize that her instinct to create Pinterest-perfect celebrations was missing the point. She doesn't care about elegant table settings, Jessica said slowly, as if the realization was dawning on her. She cares about her family being together and happy. Exactly. Like your party, everyone was together and happy. It was the first time Jessica had acknowledged that my celebration had achieved something positive, rather than just being a spiteful response to her wedding. Working together on Abuela's party gave us a chance to rebuild our relationship on new terms. Instead of the competitive dynamic we'd fallen into, where Jessica had to be the perfect cousin and I was the rebellious one, we discovered that we could collaborate when we focused on creating joy for someone else. Abuela's 80th birthday party was a beautiful blend of formal and authentic elements. We rented tables and chairs, but we covered them with hand-embroidered tablecloths that various family members had made over the years. We hired a mariachi band, but we also set up a karaoke station where family members could share Abuela's favorite songs. We organized formal family photos, but we also created space for the kind of organic celebration that leads to the best candid shots. Most importantly, we made sure every decision honored who Abuela actually was, rather than trying to create an image of who we thought she should be. The party was magical. Abuela cried when she walked into the decorated backyard and saw 4 generations of her family gathered to celebrate her life. She danced with her sons, told stories to her grandchildren, and spent the entire evening surrounded by authentic love rather than performative perfection. At the end of the night, as we cleaned up, Jessica approached me with an expression I hadn't seen from her in years, vulnerability mixed with genuine gratitude. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what?" "For showing me the difference between celebrating someone and impressing people. I'd forgotten that celebrations are supposed to be about joy, not appearances." "Does this mean you forgive me for ruining your wedding?" I asked with a slight smile. She was quiet for a moment. "I think it means I need to forgive myself for missing the point of my own wedding. And maybe I need to thank you for reminding everyone what real celebration looks like." It wasn't a complete reconciliation. There was still hurt and awkwardness between us that would take time to heal. But it was the beginning of rebuilding our relationship on a foundation of authenticity rather than competition. 6 months after my celebration at Sunset Ridge Estate, I officially launched Authentic Celebrations, my event planning business focused on creating joyful, culturally inclusive, family-centered events. My first major client was a couple who had seen Tyler's TikTok and wanted a wedding that felt like that amazing party. The business grew organically, driven by word of mouth from people who craved authentic celebration in a world of social media performance. I specialized in events that honored families' real cultures, traditions, and values instead of trying to conform to Pinterest perfection. Looking back, getting uninvited from Jessica's wedding was the catalyst for discovering my true calling. By refusing to shrink myself to fit someone else's vision of perfection, I had accidentally created a template for celebration that resonated with people who were tired of performative events and hungry for authentic joy. The irony wasn't lost on me. Jessica's rejection had led me to a career built on inclusion, authenticity, and helping families celebrate themselves exactly as they were.
1 year after that transformative night at Sunset Ridge Estate, I found myself standing in the same garden pavilion, but this time as the official event planner rather than a guest seeking vindication. The irony was beautiful. I was planning Tyler and Emma Thompson's wedding reception at the exact location where I'd accidentally discovered my life's calling. Authentic celebrations had grown beyond my wildest expectations. What started as a response to rejection had evolved into a thriving business with a 6-month waiting list and features in Phoenix Magazine and Southwest Weddings. But more than the professional success, I was proud of what we'd accomplished culturally, creating a movement towards celebrations that honored real families, real traditions, and real joy. Tyler's bachelor party had been the night before, a decidedly non-traditional affair that included both Korean barbecue and Irish pub crawling, bringing together his fraternity brothers and Emma's cousins from LA in the most authentic celebration of friendship I'd ever witnessed. No forced activities or awkward team-building exercises, just genuine connection over shared food and laughter. Now, as I put the finishing touches on the reception setup, I marveled at how different this Thompson family wedding would be from Jessica and David's formal affair. The tables were adorned with a mix of Korean paper flowers and Irish Celtic knots, the menu featured both kimchi and shepherd's pie, and the playlist seamlessly blended traditional Irish folk music with K-pop hits. "Camila!" Emma's voice rang out across the pavilion as she approached in her getting-ready robe, her hair in curlers. "I just wanted to thank you again before the chaos starts. This is exactly what Tyler and I dreamed of." "How are you feeling?" "Excited, nervous, but mostly just grateful that our families are going to experience something real today instead of some generic wedding performance." Emma's Korean grandmother had flown in from Seoul specifically for the wedding, despite being 87 years old and rarely traveling. Tyler's Irish grandfather had driven down from Flagstaff with his accordion, determined to play traditional Celtic music for the couple's first dance. The guest list included Tyler's investment banking colleagues, Emma's fellow medical residents, Korean aunties who spoke limited English, Irish uncles with thick brogues, and college friends from vastly different backgrounds. In the past, this diversity might have been seen as a planning challenge. How do you create coherence when your guest list spans multiple generations, cultures, and social circles? But I'd learned that the secret wasn't forcing coherence. It was creating space for authentic interaction. "The photographer wants to start taking family photos in 30 minutes, I told Emma. "Are you ready for the controlled chaos?" She laughed. "Bring it on." After seeing Jessica's wedding photos, all perfect poses and matching outfits, Tyler and I specifically requested candid shots that show real emotion. As guests began arriving, I watched the magic happen again. Emma's Korean relatives, dressed in beautiful traditional hanbok, mingled with Tyler's Irish family in their formal Celtic attire. The age range spanned from Emma's baby niece to Tyler's 92-year-old great-aunt, and the languages being spoken included English, Korean, Gaelic, and Spanish from the catering staff. Instead of the polite segregation typical at formal weddings, people naturally gravitated toward each other out of curiosity and genuine interest. I watched Emma's grandmother teach Tyler's teenage cousins how to fold Korean dumplings, while Tyler's grandfather showed Korean uncles traditional Irish dance steps. Patricia Thompson arrived fashionably late, wearing a powder blue dress that screamed mother of the groom formality. I braced myself for potential drama, remembering her comments about aesthetic cohesion from Jessica's engagement party. But to my surprise, she seemed genuinely charmed by the multicultural celebration unfolding around her. "Camila," she said, approaching me with what appeared to be sincere warmth, "I owe you an apology, and probably a thank you." "For what?" "For my behavior during Jessica's wedding planning. I was so focused on creating what I thought was sophisticated that I forgot celebrations are supposed to bring people together, not exclude them." She gestured around the pavilion, where her youngest son was learning Korean phrases from Emma's cousins, while her husband attempted to play Irish folk songs on an unfamiliar Korean drum. "This is what family celebrations should look like." "What changed your mind?" "Watching my family actually enjoy themselves for once. David and Jessica's wedding was beautiful, but it was also," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "sterile, perfect, but cold. This feels alive." The ceremony itself was a beautiful blend of traditions. Tyler and Emma exchanged vows in both English and Korean, incorporated Irish hand fasting alongside Korean tea ceremony elements, and invited both sets of grandparents to offer blessings in their native languages. Instead of a formal procession, they walked down the aisle together, symbolizing their partnership approach to marriage. When the reception began, the cultural fusion reached its peak. The Korean BBQ station was immediately surrounded by curious Irish relatives, while Emma's medical school friends tentatively approached the Irish music corner. The DJ, a genius find who specialized in multicultural weddings, seamlessly transitioned between Korean ballads, Irish folk songs, and contemporary hits that got everyone dancing. But the moment that truly captured the spirit of authentic celebration came during the toasts. Instead of formal speeches from designated wedding party members, Tyler and Emma had invited anyone who wanted to share a memory or blessing to speak. The result was a beautiful cacophony of love expressed in multiple languages and cultural styles. Emma's Halmoni, grandmother, spoke in Korean, with Emma translating her words about finding joy in difference and strength in unity. Tyler's grandfather told an Irish folktale about love conquering cultural divides. Emma's medical school roommate shared a hilarious story about Tyler's first attempt to cook Korean food. Tyler's college friend performed an impromptu rap about intercultural love that had everyone laughing and cheering. As the evening progressed, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me here. Exactly 1 year ago, I'd been planning my own celebration as a response to rejection and exclusion. Now I was witnessing the natural evolution of that philosophy: celebration as inclusion, joy as authenticity, love as acceptance of difference rather than demand for conformity. Around 9 p.m., I noticed a familiar figure at the edge of the pavilion. Jessica stood just outside the main celebration area, wearing a simple navy dress and watching the festivities with an expression I couldn't quite read. I approached her carefully. "Hi, Jess. I didn't know you were coming." "Tyler invited me at the last minute. David's working late, but I wanted to see—" She gestured vaguely at the celebration. "This. And what do you think of this?" She was quiet for a long moment, watching as Emma's Korean aunties taught Irish step dancing to Tyler's teenage cousins, while a mariachi guitarist provided accompaniment. "I think I understand now what I missed," she said finally. "My wedding was about creating a perfect image. This is about creating perfect memories. Your wedding was beautiful, Jessica. It just prioritized different things." "Wrong things," she corrected quietly. "I spent so much money and energy making everything look right that I forgot to make sure it felt right." We stood together in companionable silence, watching as Tyler lifted Emma for their first dance while both sets of grandparents wiped away happy tears. "David and I have been in counseling," Jessica continued, "working on understanding what we actually want our marriage to be about versus what we thought it should look like to other people." "How's that going?" "Hard, but good. We're learning to prioritize connection over appearance, authenticity over approval." She paused. "I think seeing your celebration last year was the wake-up call we both needed, even if it took us a while to admit it. I'm glad something positive came out of all that drama." "Camila, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you think there's a way to have both, beauty and authenticity, elegance and joy, or do you have to choose?" I considered her question while watching the scene in front of us. Emma's dress was a stunning fusion of Korean and Irish design elements, traditional hanbok silhouette with Irish lace details. The table settings combined elegant linens with rustic wooden chargers and colorful Korean ceramics. The overall effect was sophisticated and culturally rich simultaneously. "I think the key is deciding what kind of beauty you're creating," I said finally. "Are you creating beauty that excludes people who don't fit the aesthetic? Or are you creating beauty that includes and celebrates the authentic diversity of your community? Like this wedding?" "Exactly like this wedding." Emma and Tyler didn't sacrifice elegance, they just defined it differently. Their elegance comes from honoring their family's traditions rather than conforming to generic wedding standards. As if summoned by our conversation, Tyler appeared beside us, slightly sweaty from dancing but glowing with happiness. "Jessica, I'm so glad you came. What do you think of our multicultural madness?" "I think it's the most beautiful wedding I've ever attended," she said, and I could tell she meant it. "Everything feels so real." That's all Camila's influence. She taught us that the best celebrations happen when you focus on bringing people together rather than impressing them. "Tyler," Jessica said, "would you mind if I borrow your wedding planner for a consultation sometime?" Both Tyler and I looked at her in surprise. "David and I are thinking about renewing our vows for our first anniversary. Something small and meaningful, focused on what marriage actually means to us rather than what it looks like to other people." "I'd be honored to help," I said, meaning it completely. As the evening wound down and guests began saying their goodbyes, I helped coordinate the traditional Korean and Irish farewell customs. Emma's family prepared small gift bags of Korean sweets, while Tyler's family organized a traditional Irish blessing circle. The cleanup process was surprisingly joyful, with guests from both families working together to pack up decorations and leftover food. Emma's Korean aunties insisted that Tyler's Irish relatives take home containers of Korean barbecue, while Tyler's grandmother pressed homemade Irish soda bread into the hands of Emma's medical school friends. "This is what celebration should always feel like," Emma told me as we packed up the last of the centerpieces, "like a beginning rather than just a performance." As I drove home that night, I reflected on the incredible year that had unfolded since my own celebration at this same venue. Getting uninvited from Jessica's wedding had felt like the end of something important: a family relationship, a sense of belonging, my confidence in my own worth. But it had actually been the beginning of everything meaningful in my life. By refusing to hide my authentic self to fit someone else's vision of perfection, I had accidentally discovered my life's purpose: helping families celebrate themselves exactly as they were. My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. "Thank you for giving us the wedding of our dreams, but more importantly, thank you for showing our entire family what authentic celebration looks like. You changed everything for all of us." Another message came from Emma. "The photos are incredible, but more importantly, the memories are perfect. Every guest felt seen and valued. That's the gift you give, making everyone feel like they belong." And finally, a message from an unknown number that made me smile. "Hi, this is Amanda Thompson, David's sister. I heard about your event planning business from Tyler's wedding guests. My fiance and I want to plan a celebration that prioritizes joy over appearances. Can we schedule a consultation? We want the opposite of formal and perfect. We want real and meaningful." The next morning, I woke up to find that Emma had posted a video compilation of wedding highlights on her Instagram. The comments were pouring in from strangers, inspired by the authentic joy and cultural celebration they witnessed. "This is what weddings should be. How do I book this planner? Finally, a celebration that looks like real life. The families blending traditions is everything." 1 year after being told I wasn't good enough for my cousin's perfect wedding, I had built a business around the radical idea that everyone deserves to celebrate exactly who they are. My calendar was booked solid with clients who specifically sought out celebrations that prioritized authenticity over aesthetics, inclusion over exclusivity, and joy over performance. But the real victory wasn't the business success or the social media recognition. It was the knowledge that by standing up for my own worth, I had accidentally started a movement toward more authentic celebration. Families across Phoenix were choosing mariachi bands over string quartets, family recipes over fancy catering, and candid photos over posed perfection. Jessica and David did renew their vows 6 months later, in a small ceremony that focused on their genuine commitment rather than impressing their families. Patricia Thompson hired me to plan her own 60th birthday party, specifically requesting the opposite of stuffy country club elegance. And Tyler and Emma? They became advocates for multicultural celebration, using their social media platforms to showcase how beautiful it is when families honor their authentic traditions instead of conforming to generic expectations. The lesson I learned that night at Sunset Ridge Estate, and that I now share with every client, is that the most beautiful celebrations happen when you stop trying to fit someone else's definition of perfection and start celebrating the perfect beauty of being exactly who you are. Sometimes, the best thing that can happen to you is being uninvited from someone else's idea of perfection, because that rejection might just be the invitation you need to create something authentically beautiful for yourself. And sometimes, the most unexpected revenge is living so authentically that you inspire others to choose joy over performance, inclusion over exclusivity, and love over appearances. That's the story of how being too fat for my cousin's wedding led me to discover that I was exactly the right size for my own life. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.